Greetings explorers, welcome to Crafting Basics, Staining. For this video we're going to be going over some techniques for staining leather and how to experiment with applying stain to leather. For this project you will need thick leather, cotton swab brushes, paper towels, stain, in this case water stain, gloves, leather sheen, and water. When staining leather, there are many approaches that one can use in order to color leather. In this video, we will be using some approaches that aim to conserve the amount of stain used to color your leather, as well as go over some potential results of these staining techniques. Also note, when you are staining your leather, there is a possibility that a color might not look quite right, depending on the texture and color and how the leather that you have responds to the stain that you're using. So do not be surprised that if you go through and you use, for example, yellow, and it might come out a little bit more brown than yellow. That just happens to be how that leather responds to that color. The first staining approach I will be employing is a wet cotton swab brush with some stain on it being applied to dry leather. Depending on how consistently this is applied, the results of this approach will either be smooth or have a subtle variation in tones for your chosen stain. The next approach will be some stain on a wet cotton swab brush being applied to wet leather. This approach will more often than not produce a nice, smooth color. If you use this approach, be sure to keep your leather wet as it will dry out as you apply stain to other parts. This staining method takes the approach of dripping stain onto leather and then smoothing it out with both a wet paper towel followed by a wet cotton swab with some stain to touch it up. This approach can lead to a subtle variation in tones for your chosen stain. The fourth staining technique is applying stain to a dry cotton swab and applying it to dry leather. This approach will either be smooth or subtle in variation in tones for your chosen stain. This method can also be wasteful in the amount of stain used and will need to be smoothed out with a wet paper towel. If the stain is left alone like this without a wet paper towel, it will take quite a bit longer to dry as compared to the other approaches. The next two techniques are mostly experimenting with how to apply stain and mixing colors. In this approach, we are dabbing on stain, creating a cloud or stone-like texture. The following approach uses the wet leather and wet cotton swab method in order to help blend and transition one color to another. After you are done staining, you allow your leather to dry. Depending on the temperature and the number of coats of stain you applied, this can affect how long the stain takes to dry. Once it is dry, you can spray it with leather sheen. When you use this on a project, be sure to shake well and then spray in a well-ventilated area. For most of the projects we do on this channel, we spray our leather pieces outside. The number of coats of sheen you apply is up to you. The more coats applied, the shinier it will be. However, not many coats are needed to help protect your leather from water. And that concludes this Crafting Basics video. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up and click the subscribe if you want to see more videos like this one, as well as our bigger leathercraft projects. Our leathercraft projects occur once a month on Saturday, so hit that bell icon if you want to get notified when a project is posted. Until then, happy crafting! Bye guys!